Sit, turn type, sit. Good boy. Ruff. Be sure you come out and check out the squad on November 14th, Friday, November 14th, at the Mecca, Ridgefield Park, New York, for Respect Wrestling, presenting No Escape, Friday, November 14th. Don't want to miss it. Doors open at 7 p.m. Bell time is at 8 p.m. Friday, November 14th, at the Mecca, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Respect Wrestling presents No Escape. You don't want to miss it.
Class is back in session, everybody. History and Headlocks here for New York Wrestle Media, right here on YouTube. I am Whole Milk Mike, as always, and joining me quite frequently now. So I was thinking about this, trying to consider like what official title you could have for History and Headlocks. Maybe like a dean, principal, supervisor.
I like the dean part. I used to be a dean on a high school at one time. Dean Santi, Superintendent Santi.
There we go.
Superintendent Santi. That has a good ring to it.
Yeah, Jay's Fogan, while already is taking a sabbatical, but she'll be back very soon. So, all best wishes to her. So, and I figured since she's not here right now, we could cover one of her least favorite wrestlers in the world right now.
Don't tell her. Don't tell her at all.
Yeah, this is gonna be a surprise episode she doesn't know about.
We're gonna get in detention if she finds out.
Yeah, and so pretty much we're gonna be doing this episode because he's your favorite wrestler. We'll get into that a little bit, but we are talking about Mr. Cult of Personality, voice of the voiceless, the only straight edge world heavyweight champion, Mr. CM Punk.
Your new WWE champion, yes, sir.
Yeah, the timing of this is actually perfect too, considering just what happened last night.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, Mr. J. Santi, why are you such a big fan of the Punkster?
So, as many people know, when anyone ever asks me like who's your favorite wrestler of all time, I always tell people it always tends to change. It could change on any type of feeling that I'm having, depending on what type of wrestler you're talking about. We're talking about in-ring. We're talking about microphone. We talk about personality. We talk about charisma. And the weather could shift with me when it comes to my favorite wrestler. But Punk always seems to be in my top 5 of all time because he has the ability, or at one point in time had the ability of doing all facets of wrestling, be it being on the microphone, being it in the ring, having the charisma, the capability to draw an audience. But also with him, there's something about his love of wrestling. Love of hate him, what many do hate him. One thing that people can say is that he was very passionate and still is passionate about professional wrestling. And that there's a lot to say about people who can actually say that they have a passion and love for something. They're those who have a passion for their careers. passion for their hobbies, their passion for video gaming and such. With one known as Philip Jack Brooks, uh, he fell in love with wrestling at an early age and continued that love to this day.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to cover this first, where usually we go straight into like, oh, like when they started training, but I want to talk about like his personal life for a little bit here, where I think where people like I brought up the fact like, oh, he's a straight edge world heavyweight champion. And I think some people may still know what that is, or it still might be a thing around these days. But like, what was your understanding of like somebody being straight edge?
Being one who's not straight edge,
Yeah, I was gonna say the complete opposite of it.
I think the last time I was straight edge was when I was maybe 8, that long ago. Uh and there is some dispute. Some may say that the whole straight edge life is just horse shit, because some may say they may or may not have seen him have a drink or two or danced with other activities. But for him, his straight edge life, being as though that he's not done drugs or drank all his life, he wears the Pepsi logo on his arm for a reason. Was because of apparently his father struggled with alcoholism, and um in his teenage life became straight edge, and straight edge culture as well. They are benefited with going to certain clubs because they know that they're not going to drink or do drugs. So that's what the X is for. When you go to a club, they exit to say you can't get any liquor and stuff. So that became, you know a lifestyle for many teens. A healthy thing to do early on. But at the same time, um, he didn't have much of a great upbringing until he got into the professional wrestling life.
I want to. So, in your personal life, have you ever encountered people of the straight edge life, or
Yeah, I know people who don't drink and do drugs. I've seen them. They're boring. No, I'm kidding. No,
Jesus,
oh,
Jay?
no. I mean, it's fine. It's a healthy life. It's a way to go about it. Um,
Yeah,
I just, like I said, just don't judge me. Do your thing, and I'll do my thing. All right.
yeah, but it's unfortunate in today's society. I'll say even, or even as like as you were growing up, was like that like part of society like judgmental as hell? Because I can imagine if somebody is straight edge and they go out and they see people drinking, like would they say something to that person or just not care? Or, like how big was like is straight society, straight edge, like social climate, like way back in the way, like back in the day?
Not in my area. That seems more of suburbia kind of thing. It's
Hmm.
that's and it doesn't really happen on inner cities. But I've known individuals who grew up in certain household, and which deterred them from doing any drugs or any alcohol. So they just were pretty cool. They just was laid back and chill. uh, they were usually the people I was glad to know that had driver's license, because I know I could go hang out and I could fucking get a ride home and not worry about them being drunk. But no, it was always you always get one or two in a crowd that's not into it, and it was fine. They were never really judgmental to us. So
Or like you just like mentioned briefly, just they'd be the designated driver in some groups.
oh yeah, definitely. It was always and if you're sober hanging around a bunch of drunks, you are the strongest person in the group, because drunks could be the most obnoxious people you could deal with. So, right, yeah, if you can handle that, then you're able to take on the world.
So we're talking about CM Punk. He became a huge fan of wrestling, and I think I find it funny where it's like a guy that does like drinking or like the idea of like people drinking. Favorite wrestler, of course, has to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, to there, he took a picture with him. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the word would use for that. It would be just ironic,
This is such a kind of an irony to it, but also
right?
his favorite wrestler of all time is Bret Hart. So that
Yeah, him too. But I'm just saying, because the famous picture of Punk and Stone Cold always circulates when he was younger. It's just like Punk with the spiky hair. It's like, oh, like in knowing his past, it's like one of those like ironic things. But yeah, Bret Hart definitely one of his favorites, and you could see it in the way he wrestles when we get into him starting. So '97 is when he started training, and then 2002 is when he got this big break, signing with Ring of Honor, and making some appearances for TNA. Where is that when you discovered Punk wrestling for the first time?
yeah, I got him. I got later on into recognizing Punk as an individual in Ring of Honor. That's where I knew him from. But I remember watching old videos of him in different hell. He even started early on in WWE. He was a jobber early on. I believe I he jobbed to the new version of um the Legion of Doom with Heidenreich. I believe he was part of a match then. So when you look at
That's later on though. That's like
that,
2005.
is it though?
Yeah, Heidenreich's like 2004, 2005.
I really would have believed that because like in 2001, 2002. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
maybe he popped his head up on metal or some shit like that.
yeah, it was something like that. But I really caught on to him more in the Ring of Honor era, and that's when I had to like really like look for Ring of Honor. You had to find it because out here in New York City, it was great to know that Ring of Honor ran in New York, but just not in the city. You had to get it's in from the state. It was a state show, so upstate would have Ring of Honor shows, but not us. Oh, look at Punk, cute old Punk. Oh, the young channeling his
Yeah,
inner Slim Shady.
yeah. I was about to say that just shows also the time of the period, but that's like the picture I was thinking of. I don't know where I got thought of the spiky hair, but I think that's another picture. But
Yeah, so
so yeah,
yeah,
2002. Like, funny enough, when I discovered or how I discovered him was through the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines, where I would see pictures of him and Raven, like what was one of his prolific feuds in Ring of Honor at that time. And funny enough, in TNA too, where like he was like one of his members of like the Gathering, and that's like where I discovered like a young Alexis Lurie, also known as Mickey James nowadays, and if CM Punk also had a partner, Julio De Niro, I think his name was.
mhm.
But it was very interesting to see like also hear about his relationship with TNA because you think, oh, TNA would be a perfect spot for him, but he was more loyal to Ring of Honor, unlike some people where this is when like you start hearing stories about his loyalty and how he felt about people being disloyal. So at
Yeah,
that time, TNA and Ring of Honor had a disagreement about like dates, and because they always coincide with each other. So people that would work the TNA dates then decided to just do Ring of Honor exclusively. And Punk was like all for that, but then some people decided, no, I'd rather do TNA. So then some people got on his bad side, and then I think that's when people start seeing a very aggressive or I don't know, very different way of how Punk interacts with people. Where it's interesting when we talk, what we're going to talk about it going forward.
yeah. I thought that when you saw him early on, he kind of reminded me like he could have fit like in Raven's flock, that kind of feeling. Um, but you could tell that the kid was sharpened up. His longtime trainer, his mentor, Ace Steel, walked him through it early on in their early days with IWA Mid South, and you also got those partnerships and friendships that he made before shit down, fell to the wayside with Cole Cabana and such. So you could tell early on in those early days in the total nonstop era that he didn't look as though that he would become a breakthrough star because he was often considered small in stature, body wise. He wasn't that build, but he had the ring awareness and knowledge to get him through matches.
Skinny kid from Chicago wearing basketball shorts. I've seen more interesting or less interesting looks, but I mean, with him too, it's like that, and plus he has the Pepsi tattoo. It's like a couple other tattoos, and I think at this point, he has straight edge on his stomach?
Right.
I believe so. And then like we talked about before, when you talk about like, the X's on the hands, he did that for his all every time for his wrist tape, and that's one of the things he incorporated into his character, where it's like I'm straight edge and I'm better than you. Overall, what do you think about that presentation overall?
Uh, it draws a lot of heat because especially when you're in certain areas of the country, especially those in the deep south, people
Mm-hmm.
love people love to drink, people love to party. But that definitely it's a subtle lifestyle that can get you over and draw heat with a crowd because of it's cultural. It's a personal kind of counterculture of what you usually would see in wrestling and such. Beer swilling, a lot of doobies being passed around, and it's like you guys are so ignorant that you can't even realize what life really is because you got to stay high. Where I'm straight edge and I'm better than you. So I thought it was a really good, really smart gimmick to use to get yourself over.
I will say, old school Punk. I mean, my guy, he was very vicious on the microphone, kind of like a young MJF, or at least like young but modern MJF, where he would say anything on the microphone and not give a shit about what he would say. Like one of the funny ones is like he's pretending to hold a microphone. He puts it in front of a girl's face. Goes, "You stupid bitch! I'm not holding a microphone." Like old school type of stuff. Where
Yeah.
I wouldn't say old school, but just like typical healers type stuff. And he would like the mouth on this guy was crazy. But like Ring of Honor, when you think about it, did he really fit in that mold? Like I'm not talking like his like appearance wise, but his ring style.
I believe so because Ring of Honor didn't really they weren't working with that big muscle uh showcasing of physique and body wise as promotion from the East Coast does or did. Uh, they were into smaller guys. They were into the technical. They were into the you'll play around with the mixture of the luchadors, the strong styles. So he was like a perfect mixture of that kind of wrestling. Uh, he often played the catalyst to what the big name would be if he was in the ring with a, let's say you get into a Brian Danielson kind of match, or you had got into a match with another guy who's at his level as his of Austin Aries and such. So I thought that he fit really well in the Ring of Honor circles.
I mean, how about his feud with Samoa Joe?
Oh please, those are just legendary. Like these he's gone toe to toe with the best of the best for many of the years. You had um, Christopher Daniels. You had his feud with at one point in time, whatever the Briscoes and such. Whenever he would team up. Um, you had just him pushing the boundaries of not only being able to have that love hate relationship with the audience, but at the same time you wanted to see him lose, but he always found a way to pull out that W and just get one over. And it really just made him even a bigger firecracker. So much so that it actually drew eyes from one Paul Heyman who saw that there was something in this kid.
All right. So I want to ask about his relationship with a certain jock-looking but very charismatic guy from Chicago as well in Colt Cabana, where like I wasn't watching around this time, but just the idea of these two, like somebody told me, oh, they're best friends, they're tag team partners, and they have incredible chemistry. It's like, what made them two stand out together? Right, where it's like you have a straight edge kid and a jock goofball.
Well, it was the same thing. They both pretty much played the line of straight edge. Um,
Colt is his
yeah,
favorite.
pretty much. He remember he had this happy go lucky kind of look. He was very fan friendly, comical wrestler as well, but was a guy who was able to turn it on when they needed to. He needed to turn it on. You also had uh, once again two guys from the second city, the Windy City, so that always helped with them as well. And they was they ring chemistry often seemed to be parallel, although Colt was bigger in size, but Colt could move as though if he was a little guy at that time. So, you can see the comparisons there and how these two were, not only there I go. Sorry. No, something just went on. Something blipped. Yeah. Um, yeah, that these two were like dancers in the ring, but at the same time they were they're the best buds, and usually that really helps as a as a wrestling tandem as a partner.
So he makes himself as pretty much a star. I mean, also, like I said, when they incorporated Raven, Ring of Honor, all the ECW stuff, there's also when you look at Punk, he kind of fits that ECW mold where it's like he could be extreme, but he could also be sadistic. He could be methodical. He had that type of personality, like look wise, where it's like he like kind of like like Jake Roberts esque, where like when you listen to him talk, you're very entranced, like you wonder what he's talking about, like what's he gonna say next, type of deal. So like that type of stuff from Ring of Honor, he makes a name for himself, and then by 2005, WWE comes calling around, and I'm gonna use the man's words, where it was like it was the worst decision of his wrestling career, where he signs with WWE in 2005. But
Yeah,
like how would you? Like looking back on that quote, like kind of like he feels like he could have spent longer in Ring of Honor, or like just him saying that in hindsight.
I think what happened with him, especially after the great run he had in ROH, especially with the Summer of Punk, where was teasing leaving the company, going after the titles and such. He was such on a high, on a great momentum, great push. Uh, Knowing that he's from Chicago, if you're going to be a baseball player, eh, regardless of whether you love him or hate him, you're always going to want to play for the Yankees. You always want to at least make one stop at the Yankees. So him being a professional wrestler, you know, if you don't want to fucking wrestle in WWE, then what's the point of being a wrestler? So he knew that he had to take advantage and get that calling, and he was like I said, he had the backing of Heyman. He had the ability to get over, but there was no legitimate spot for him at that time. There was nowhere really that he would go and become a main eventer. It was just you knew that it was going to be a tall climb, a tall mountain for him to climb. Vince isn't usually taking guys like this. He's not really looking at wrestlers that small in stature, that height. He was already moving on. He's already had gotten like guys like Cena that was getting in there, Triple H, Randy. They're guys who, they were buffed up and jacked. He Punk didn't fit the model. And he had to make a lot of changes. And I believe that's why he felt as though that it wasn't, the same for him. Excuse me. I don't think it was I think later on in hindsight, he looks at it now to say that might have been the worst. But I think he understood that at that time, he wasn't mature enough to understand what it was to get into the business at that time, especially with WWE.
Right. I think also too, like around that time where if they did put him on TV right away, he could have just been another body in the cruiserweight division on SmackDown. But that's like another what if story. But you bring up the picture of Punk and Joe. I don't know if you heard the famous rumor that Mick Foley has pitched to Vince to bring them both in at the same time, like as his bodyguards or like his heavies.
Right.
Like, have you heard about that famous story?
No.
Where, like, I think because Foley worked a few Ring of Honor dates, and he was on the same shows as Punk and Joe, and I think when he was making his return to WWE, he pitched for them to make the debut and be like attack him on Raw.
I I think Mick would have done that
Right.
just to get them in.
Right.
You know, they had it. You know, they had the talent. You know, they had the ability to go in there and push that that ability to get other wrestlers over. You
Right.
know, I know that Foley made the appearances at Ring of Honor at the time, but I didn't know that he pitched for them to bring him in.
Yeah.
He's Mick has always been a guy that's always willing to lend a hand out and get some guys over, but you know, it still was that you know we got to send them down to OVW first before there was
Mhm.
there was OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, and um that's where he was mentored by Heyman, and
Right.
he um a lot of knowledge and awareness. He was still you know a little green about having to deal with the fact that you know what the WWE machine was and who wouldn't be. But you know when you got a guy like Heyman that's there for you, then you know you pretty much is you're looking to have somewhat of a solidified career.
Right. I will say this: looking at some OVW footage of Punk, where it's obviously he's eating a lot, like he's trying to like build some mass on him on his body,
Hmm.
and with the dark black hair and like. And I think facially too, like people always address like his eye situation, where it's like he always looks tired. Like he just looked generally exhausted to me every time, like he was on OVW screens. But people always also have the problem of hiding the boo boo face.
Right.
Like they always like you can see like, oh, that person's miserable. You can just tell he was miserable in OVW.
Yeah, I think that it was it was you know training grounds. He was in there with guys like later on you find out become WWE superstars. You know, you had Aaron the Idol Stevens. You had Shad Gaspard and the what was his JTG's name? It was a JTG down there. It was oh the neighborhoody. I think it was. I think it was
Are you
that.
kidding me?
I think it was. Yeah, in the neighborhoody. Um,
I was thinking more of names like Mr. Kennedy or Beth Phoenix. Like he was
yeah,
with that. Like we talk about like everybody talks about the John Cena, Shelton Benjamin, Raider, and Class. Like with
right,
CM
right.
Punk, it's with the Kennedys, the Kenny Dykstras, the Dolph Zigglers.
Yeah, you had
Like
that.
Spirit Squad was going around this time when he comes in.
Right, right, right. Um, but you know, you still had that class that were um that were had projection, had a possible potential in the future. So, and a lot of that class also were able to produce guys with charisma. Like I said, Aaron Stevens, Shad Gabbers, these guys were, you know, you might not think they were great in a ring, but the crowd loved them. They were fucking mesmerizing. And Punk was not that kind of guy. He was
Right.
still ring, you know, looking more at ring work. And remember when he finally debuted, he didn't really talk so much on when he debuted for ECW. He didn't really speak that much until later on down the line.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of hesitation when they brought him up. But you mentioned a few times already Paul Heyman, his relationship with him. But on the CM Punk DVD back in I think 2013, around that time, where I'm referencing this, where
Hmm.
he would learn how to write the shows or how to produce the shows. Meanwhile, it's like
Yeah,
talent back then, like that was like a no-no. Like talent doesn't learn how to do this. You go out there, wrestle, cut your promos, and that's it. Where Punk was able to understand more of the business from behind the scenes, where not a lot of people get to say like, "Hey, I know how to like cut time on this for like 45 minutes, blah blah, blah that type of stuff."
yeah. I kind of I remember interview that RVD a shoot interview had, and he talked about CM Punk and he was once again he's one of those that was a little bit he was a bit full of himself. And at this it's it just at this time he was barely 30, if that. And he carried himself like he was this this wrestling legend. And RVD was looking at him like, yeah, I would slap the shit out of you, dude. Like, it's like, who the hell you think you're talking to like that? But I mean, to hear that he wanted to learn how to like book matches, agent matches, and know how to put together spots and such like that at that time. It's something that's being done now. I mean, back then it looks as though he's shooting for the moon and stepping over stepping out of his comfort zone or out of the pocket. But nowadays this is what everybody's doing. Everybody wants to learn how to do that because at the end of the day, you can't wrestle forever. You got to learn how to do something else.
Yeah, and when I think I'm trying to remember when ECW was being launched. It was 2006, and it was right before the summertime, and they were doing pretty much. Paul Heyman was pretty much getting in trouble, or he was in trouble being sent to OVW. But then they're like, you know what? Come on up, run ECW, and loosely run the ECW, where pretty much a third brand, 1 hour spot on Sci-Fi, and he gets Rob Van Dam, Kurt Angle, and always famously says in the draft where they were talking about talent, let's go to ECW. CM Punk was his first draft pick. Relatively unknown guy from Chicago that's now getting a main roster call up, and I remember his promos where it's like I don't drink, I don't do drugs, my addiction is wrestling. Looking back at that, is it corny now or is it like I don't know? How do you feel about like his early character in
Well,
WWE?
we're looking at his I guess his debuting time in WWE was pretty much during the ruthless aggression era, right? So
Technically, yeah, it's still the ruthless aggression era.
right. So um he's not I mean honestly he's not over yet. Although the fans, which I know that there was talk and in conversations before that Vince wasn't too keen on knowing and understanding why he was known. When he first debuted, he got a huge pop, and crowd was really into it. And
Mm-hmm.
he didn't understand how. And it's like Vince, there is other wrestling promotions besides you, so like there's other, come on. But
It just so happens that the venue you debut him at from your TV show, he's wrestled there plenty of times,
there are times,
and
right?
that East Coast crowd knows who he is, and like it's just insane. It's also like you ask Vince, like, why did you sign him? Like, did you
Right.
just take him for the sake of like fuckery, or like because
And,
somebody had to pitch him to him, right? Somebody had to be like, hey, listen, real name Phil Brooks, but wrestling name CM Punk. He's probably like, oh, his name's Punk. What does the CM stand for? Like, he probably had a bunch of these stupid questions like at the helm.
right. And he came in with his name. He didn't come in, as you know, Chunk Punkinston or something like that.
That
He
yeah.
came in with. So that's a rarity as well. But
Why do you
you know,
think that is? Is just because like you think it just stood out a lot?
and Vince is into the championship name announcement. If it sounds like it should be worn by a champion, then that name is used. It's set. So you have to pitch him in your world heavyweight champ CM Punk. So it rings him to say like, yeah, that could work. So that all you have to do is sell him on the name. And remember at that time that wasn't happening for a lot of guys. So you get that you got that over. But slowly but surely he was getting a lot of stuff over with Vince as well.
Right.
Um, Vince was always had this mentality of, if you can't really party with the boys, then what's the really reason why you're in the business? But at the same time, Vince was all about the clean life as well when it came to his body, health regimens, eating certain foods. except for that whole not knowing what a burrito thing is. I don't know what I can't how he didn't figure that shit out. But
Seriously?
yeah, that was kind of weird. But
Yeah.
yeah, Punk, he earned his stripes. ECW was a fledgling show that was going to die. Everybody knew that was going to be a dying show.
Yeah.
He actually held that show together for a while for a long time. So you have to give him credit for that as well when he was able to get their title and such.
So, like you said, he organically gets over with the fans and participants. Like, oh, what the fuck? I would say in his first year, his big. This is gonna sound so stupid, but people need to believe me. This was the time that this was a thing where he's on a Survivor Series team in Philadelphia with DX and the Hardys, and he's getting the most chance out of all four of them.
Yep.
Nuts. And Triple H had to be like what the hell is this? And he goes, hold on, my friend CM Punk has something to ask you guys. And then CM Punk shyly is like, are you ready? It's like, he didn't want to do it, but it's also like got put on the spot.
Right. That's what I said. For the longest time, you didn't really hear him speak. He had a promo here and there, but nothing was like that would make you like gravitate to him as like, oh my God, he is the Second City Saint.
Right.
But yeah,
and mind you, his storyline on the ECW would be like, oh, Kelly has a crush on CM Punk, or like,
right.
And like Punk is like fighting everybody on weekly, and then in December he gets to the big pay-per-view main event, but the ECW December Dismember is a nightmare. But we need to talk about the original pitch where he was supposed to, well, it was planned for him to make the Big Show tap out in the first couple minutes of the match, and he becomes the champion in the end. Vince saw nothing in that, just said kibosh the whole idea because he wants Bobby Lashley to be a champion. But I mean, that's Vince's idea. But what did you think of this idea?
I thought it was ballsy for him to give that a shot, especially with him. He was still
which by the way, Heyman. This was a Heyman idea.
Heyman idea, yeah. And at this time, Heyman was not too much favored within the company so much.
This was him. This was him like on his dying days, like right. On the way out. And this is definitely one of those throw it at the wall Hail Mary ideas. Like fuck it, I want to be happy. Like let me do this one idea. Damn it.
Yeah, he pretty much knew the writing was on the wall with him. Wasn't happy what became of ECW and such, so he just threw it up there. I mean, yeah, for what it's worth, it turned out for the better, didn't it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Punk goes from that. He's in the Rumble. He spends. I had to look this up. He spent over 30 minutes, which was longer than any ECW representative in the 2007 Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
He's on WrestleMania in the big 8-man Money in the Bank ladder match, taking up RKO off the ladder.
Right.
Following year, he's in the main event, battling for the ECW World Title. Again, a good spot in the Rumble, over 30 minutes. WrestleMania 24, he wins the Money in the Bank ladder match. But I think the problem was he's still in the third brand and he's the most over guy on the show. But then they decide, draft time, we're moving him to Monday Night Raw, which I think definitely surprised me because I was like, really? You're going to put him on the A show? Where like Triple H is, Batista is on now, John Cena, like he's going to be in the mix with those guys now? And funny enough, the week after the draft, they give him the world title. And they make him cash in successfully, which I think a lot of people also said, like, oh, he's going to be the first person to cash in and fail.
Yeah, I was on that same boat as well. So, I'll get back to where my fandom continued on. So, knowing that after I watched the whole summer of Punk happen and all that such, and he did the Ring of Honor exit and gone, and he lands here in ECW and such. I thought initially he was going to be dead in the water. I said, this kid is not going to be. He's not going to stay here for too long. He's not going to be here. At that time, the YouTubes and the social medias was opening up a little bit more, becoming more wrestling friendly and stuff. So it was becoming like a new renaissance of the dirt sheets. So I would often look at the dirt sheets, and I go to a Wrestling Inc. and such like with Raja and all that stuff, and you hear the rumblings of Punk not happy or WWE's not happy with him. I was like, oh God, this kid's he's gonna fucking hit the indies again. He's gonna be gone soon. But then you get his run in ECW. Then he gets the opportunity, like you mentioned, in the Rumble. And I'm sitting there going, oh, okay. You know, maybe Vince is turning. Maybe he's starting to look at how characters are a little bit more um, represented and more acknowledged by the fans as opposed to the big body guys. Like you mentioned, then he goes to Raw. When I saw that he goes to Raw, I said to myself at that time, I'm like, maybe he can do it. You're like, I don't know. Big fish, small pond. And at
Right.
the same time, I'm thinking like, you know, well, obviously the other way around, little fish, big pond. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm going, uh, yeah, I don't know how this is gonna go. But when he cashed in, it was one of those moments that I was like, wow, they actually did that. That's pretty fucking cool.
Right.
So yeah, so I immediately began to go on websites to buy his merchandise after that.
I think that's funny enough where you say that because I think his merch sales alone, I definitely feel Vince definitely took a look at that and said, you know what, fuck it. I mean, if he sells merch, push him. But this is also around the time where like he would like this is where Punk's attitude would also kind of be detrimental to him because he's gonna be a champion. He's at the like PC or wherever the hell they were training or like getting their reps in. And Tony Atlas comes down there and like says like, "Oh, you guys are nothing." You know, Punk's like standing like, "I'm ECW champion. Who the fuck are you?" Blah blah blah. So he gets in trouble for like small shit like that. But that's also like Money in the Bank winner. Now you're the world champion. You're and he was still positioned like fifth on the show.
Yeah,
And this is
yeah,
behind like John Cena, Batista, Shawn Michaels. And this was around the time Shawn Michaels and Jericho had that great feud in 2008. And then like Punk had he had two world title defenses on pay per view, and then he doesn't even defend the world title on that stupid scramble match thing at Unforgiven. He gets kicked in the head in the backstage by Randy Orton.
and not for nothing. So, you say what you want about his attitude, his behavior, his lack of maturity and such. When you get a cool entrance music, that kind of goes over as well. People once they hear music hit, they they'll pop for you. So I think that got a lot with him as well early on in the beginning.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
people don't remember that was actually that was like a hand me down kind of thing because Randy
yeah,
Orton pitched or like he like asked the band to make that song for him, and Vince didn't like it for him, so he just gave it to Punk.
right. All right, listen, Randy didn't do bad for himself either, so he's like
Yeah,
pretty good.
but like so, his run on Raw then at that point was like weird to the point of like we're not gonna give you the world title again, but we'll give you the world tag team titles and your partner's Kofi Kingston. We'll give you the Intercontinental title and you have a great match with Regal. Like again, you have another good running in the Royal Rumble match. You go into WrestleMania 25 in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and then you win it again. And then you get drafted over to SmackDown, which I think everybody said, thank God, because it's still at that time SmackDown was like the land of opportunity for everybody.
Right.
Goes over there, cashes in successfully again on Jeff Hardy, and then we start to see a character change where pretty much we get to see this vicious psychopath CM Punk, and I think just the promos on Jeff Hardy alone, where he would pull out a pill bottle. So you see this, Jeff? This is what people get over the counter. You don't do that, like that type of shit.
Yeah.
Where and you can tell Jeff Hardy had that face of like, are we really bringing this up now? But it's also like, what did you think of that character change? Because I felt like they definitely held back on it. Where Punk was definitely ready to unleash, but they definitely put the chains on him at first.
Oh man, I actually wanted that that faction to fucking grow. I wanted that straight edge society to grow even bigger. Um, the way that they converted Luke Gallows was actually pretty fucking funny. Um,
Yeah, Festus, who was just always sticking his tongue out and doesn't react till the bell rings, and the reason why he's that way is because he's a drinker.
yeah, he had to change his whole lifestyle. What they did with Serena, I thought it was just like I was like, oh my god, there's so much potential here for fucking a bigger platform of wrestlers to join with him. It'd have been so cool. But this cult leader kind of David Koresh, Jim Jones kind of character was a perfect fit for him because he already had a following. He had the crowd in his hands. And as much as they booed him, they cheered at the same time. Like there was that mixed bag of him fighting off the cheers and still making himself one of the hottest heels in that company.
Yeah, I mean, he like you said, like there'd be little the crowd would be definitely mixed. Feel this was like definitely earlier on where the crowd wants to dictate like who they want to cheer, who they want to boo. But when you have him going against Jeff Hardy, who was the biggest babyface at the time, it was definitely easy for them to boo CM Punk. And then like they're putting him. Then he has his feud with Undertaker, where again like sometimes his mouth can shoot off, sometimes where like it's not supposed to shoot off, but it's like Undertaker was like if you're the world champion, you need to dress a certain way, blah blah blah, suits, all that nonsense. Then Punk goes like, "Oh, well, see, that's not doing that. Well, fucking like, why can I wear what I want?" And then it's like gets buried, gets the world title taken away from him, but like they still push him with this, like you said, like this cult like gimmick where they give him Festus, they give him Serena, then Joey Mercury joins along.
Right. And remember, they also teased Darren Young as well. Remember, he was his mentor for NXT.
Right, and you know what? Around that time when they made him a coach, you could definitely tell like backstage he definitely wanted to help, but on screen it just looked like he didn't want to be any part of
Right,
this
right,
fucking horse shit game
right,
show nonsense.
right.
And it was also it's so weird looking back on it now where it's like he's the pro and Daniel Bryan is the rookie. Because like you two have like the same amount of ring experience, or like it was crazy, but like he's like so then they start taking away everything that made him over. They took away his strange society after a while. Why? No reason really. I still don't have an answer for that one. You
Well,
doesn't have one.
it was yeah, it was they got rid of Serena after like a real shoot incident that occurred at a bar. Um
Oh really?
yeah, supposedly she was supposed to I guess live the gimmick and that didn't happen.
Mhm.
Um then you know like you said, the whole Joey Mercury, who I thought was a good fit for them as well. Um, it just, I guess, rumor had it that Punk was like, "How long are we gonna do this?" You know what I'm saying? He's like, really, I don't know, like what I'm really gonna be doing with this and how long this is gonna run." Um, and then remember, he had the match. It was the mask for hair match with Ray,
Oh
and
yeah, he became bald, but then he had that funny looking straight society mask, which
that was hilarious. I was mad because I wanted that mask so bad. I was like, "Shit, I gotta get that shit."
but also he made it work too because he was growing a beard at the time, so like it looked
Yeah,
even more. I don't know. Depends on how you look at it. It's silly or like just perfectly looking. But yeah, around the summertime they took away the straight society away from him.
yeah. That was Serena got released, and then like Joey got hurt, so it just
Well, Joey was also being a producer at that time, so he was
right.
like not being talented and going there. And then Gallows got the least treatment too, and then they just moved Punk over to Raw and immediately suffers an injury, and then they put him on commentary, which I think for those few months too, Punk just showed how fucking hilarious he could be
That and
when he was on commentary for Monday Night Raw.
the fact that once again, um, doesn't have to be in the ring to get over.
Right.
He became one of the most popular commentators during that time as well.
And that was around the time too when you could tell Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole were definitely just like phoning it in every week. But you need a Punk on there, and especially when they put him on commentary on the NXT season with like the Divas.
Mm.
And like they would, like, of course, when they had the Divas do these stupid obstacle course gimmicks on the show, he'd be like, "Oh, I remember doing that in training with Ace Steel. Shout out to Ace and shout out to Colt."
Right.
Like, you just like dropping insider like stuff, and then like on Monday Night Raw, like that was with the laptop stuff, and then he'd be like Michael J. Law fighting. He's like, "Oh, I finally get to do this. Like, may I have your attention, please? Like, I have an anonymous email from the anonymous general manager." Like, but then also too, it's like I didn't realize he was hurt, and that was like a cover up. I thought it was just like, oh, like his in career is over. I was like, oh shit, like it's already done. But then I think it was like around December, he comes back, he knocks out John Cena, and then he joins or becomes the new leader of the new Nexus, which is like great. We need something new. Like
Yeah,
it was like
we
that didn't work either.
we dropped the whole straight edge society just for him to lead another group. Awesome.
Right, which not for nothing. If you want Punk to have a bigger group, like there you go.
Right.
Like you would have kept Husky Harris, Michael McGillicuddy, kept Luke Gallows there. Like if you want him have an army, there you go. Except for Wade Barrett and those guys, that'd be the core, but that's a different story. But
Oh man, I just recently heard the story about what the core, how that came about. Is the funniest goddamn story. I was like, "Yep, Vince being Vince."
yeah, it makes sense. Don't trying to avoid lawsuits, but then so Punk is on Raw leading the new Nexus. He goes to WrestleMania 27 with Randy Orton, and I think a lot of their real life heat blended on TV with the both of them because I think it was like professional jealousy or just them two just like not getting along at the time. And then in that summer of 2011, where he's about to go into a WWE Championship match in his hometown of Chicago, and he publicly announces that his contract is up on that night of Money in the Bank, and he is not re-signing with WWE.
Right.
And I can imagine you, Jay, being like, "Oh, work the storyline, right? And this can't be real."
Yeah. So, um, once again, like I told you, I was into the whole dirt sheets and stuff like that. So at the same time, I'm sitting here saying, this kind of sounds familiar. Like this, I mean, I don't know. Like I knew that there were talks that he wasn't happy and um he wasn't really getting along with the booking backstage. It just didn't seem to be going his way. And I remember when it came to that time and I'm going, wow, he's really gonna fucking leave. Shit. I said, fuck. I said, all right, you know what? See him in the indies. And then
But what
I
made you turn?
I started to think this reminds me of the Ring of Honor thing. It started reminding me of Summer of Punk.
No, but I'm saying because what I want to get into is the infamous pipe bomb. Everybody that doesn't know about, look it up. It's one of the famous Monday Night Raw clips of CM Punk saying on the stage, pretty much kind of a shoot work promo about how much like he's being disrespected, and guys like Dwayne, guys like Brock, or like he just went off on everything, and then it's like he was gonna tell like a famous story about like the make a anti-bullying campaign, and that's when his mic cut off, and
Right.
then they get suspended. Just the handling of that whole thing, they could have been done better. Where gets suspended for a week, comes back with the megaphone, then has the famous contract signing with Vince. Pretty much, like, I want you to apologize for ruining professional wrestling. Like Vince is like famous, like, I apologize, you son of a bitch, and Punk's just like laughing his ass off. But it's also like one of those things where like, he actually wins the title and then he goes away for a week. I think that's the part that sucked about it too, where like because the Ring of Honor was definitely longer, right? Where he was gone from the company, like in
Right.
storyline.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah, he was gone for like a little more than a month. So yeah.
Because Punk would say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm gonna go like all these other places with the belt." Then we just get a photo of the belt in his fucking refrigerator.
Yeah. I want it to last longer, but I get where they were trying to do at this point in time with not keeping them off TV too long. And we got to a point where absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. They want instant gratification now.
Right.
So I got that.
So we are at the point of where Punk cuts the pipe bomb. He's now WWE champion. Does it seem all Guns N' Roses or happy days for him for this point? But we're gonna have to put that on hold until next week because
oh my God, yes. Let me tell you,
because there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about with this one individual.
There's a lot. So yeah, I wanted to say this because there's so much that we have to dive into with just the pipe bomb alone. I know it's been discussed numerous platforms, numerous ways, inside out, turn side out, but you didn't get a history and headlocks real in-depth look, especially from me, as for what was my thoughts about it when it occurred, and then how that became ripple effects from that day forward, even to this day, of what shoot promos became afterward. So yes, that, and we were really gonna be touching down on the departure, his return to wrestling with with AEW, his little foray into UFC. Punk had a big 50, I guess we would say 10, 15 years where the chants finally got answered, because there was a lot going on. But yeah, this is gonna be a two-parter, guys.
Yeah. So for everybody that is keeping track of this episode, we are going to stop at the point of where the summer Punk is about to begin, and then, like Jay said, we're going to talk about everything that's then happened afterwards with him being disgruntled, or a theme going on this whole episode, but him being disgruntled, his situations where he almost died. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about everything else in his later part of his wrestling career, but this is the end of part one, and we're going to be doing part two. Will be coming out very soon. Around next week, we'll be doing that episode, but until then, this is History and Headlocks, home of Mike and Superintendent Jay Santee over there, and class is dismissed.
Sit, turn type, sit. Good boy. Ruff.